All right, Arjun. Go ahead with your question.
Hey, so I have a question, which is basically when I'm writing code, I write a function in class A, and then this class A function will have a 20-line function definition, which will have a call to function B in class B in some other class function. So I'm doing this because the code relevant in class A. The code I'm writing in class A is relevant to class A, and the code I'm writing in class B is relevant to class B. But sometimes this thing goes very in depth, like A is calling B, B is calling class C is calling class D, and it goes like 10 levels deep. So in that case, it is making the code unreadable, but it has to be in that way because uh, it is relevant to that particular file, it is relevant to that particular class. So how should I solve this problem? And like, is there a limit? Like it should go like 3 levels only. It should not go like 10. And if it should go like three only, then how should I handle the other seven?
Right. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this is the question. This is a problem which I'm facing. So basically, anyone who is joining new, like for the first function, it is 29. 20, it's a 20-line function definition. So if it stays that 20-line function definition, it is easier to understand and it is easier to know what it is doing. But as it goes into much depth, like 10 classes deep, it becomes like 200-line code. So anyone who is reading that code for the first time cannot understand what this code is doing, because he has to go one level in, then he have to go one more level in, and he keeps on going in like that until unless he understands that code fully, and he have to form that flow in his mind of like 10 function calls in 10 different classes, what this class does, what that class does. That is making it not readable. So how do I solve this problem to make my code more readable?
So, sometimes when you split some logic across classes, the total number of lines goes up. So, assume it's 20 lines. If you write it all in one place, how many lines would it be?
If I write it all in one place, then it would be so. Let's say all are 20 lines. Then all 20 lines are unique. So and it will finish somewhere around 200 lines. But then there is a code repetition issue.
What's the code repetition issue?
So if I write all of that in one function only, and make it a 200-line function, then many things in this 200-line function are can be used in other places as well, and that's why they are kept in a different class. But if I keep doing this thing, it will create a
Got
lot
it.
more bigger functions and a lot more repeated code.
Right. So that's the first consideration, which is if you have a piece of code that is used multiple times, then typically it does make sense to put it in a function. Again, there are edge cases where a function takes a bunch of, let's say, Boolean parameters that control how the function works. And everybody is invoking it with a different set of parameters, the flags. So it's behaving in different ways. In this case, arguably, it's not one function, it's multiple functions.
Yeah.
But leaving this case aside, if you have a function that's invoked in multiple places, obviously you can't inline it. So
Yeah.
that's the first consideration. Now, if you have A invokes, B invokes, C invokes, D, like 10 levels deep, and some of these are called in only one place, then you can consider inlining. Are there any that are called in only one place among these 10?
Yeah, some.
Yeah, so those can be inlined.
But then that is not so. Let's say the function which I am calling from class A, which is class B. Now this class B function is getting only called from to the class A function, but that code is relevant to class B. For example, let's say I'm fetching a product details, and the details are to be fetched in the native language, in the user's language. Now the users for getting that from in the user's language, and it is only specific to product. Just for now, we can imagine that it is only specific to this product, and that's a translation code that goes into a translation helper file. So now that is relevant to translation. That's why it is in translation. If I put that into product helper, then that makes this code.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So this is a case when you have clear layering. You have a translation layer. It can consist only of one class, but it's still a layer.
Yeah.
Another example would be a network layer versus a model layer versus a view layer, right? So yes, if you have a clearly defined layer, not ad hoc, but a clear abstraction, right? For example, if you have a network fetcher that makes network calls, then you want to maintain that abstraction. That is a second consideration. The third thing you can think about is cohesion and coupling. I've made a video about that. I'll link in the description. Basically, as long as each piece of functionality is encapsulated well and the callers don't need to know the details, that's a situation in which a separate function is okay. But sometimes you have functions that depend on each other's implementation details, functions or classes or modules or any kind of abstraction. That's when you should not split them. So I'll just link the cohesion and coupling video here. So that is one thing. The other consideration may be 10 layers. Unless you have a super sophisticated app, 10 layers may be too deep. Even if you take iOS, the video reading and writing code is not 10 layers deep. And your product is far simpler than iOS. So at a high level, it does seem like 10 layers is too much. In FutureCam, we had 3 layers. So we had a function called save that saves a photo. So FutureCam is a camera app. It's an iPhone app. You use it to take photos. It's not an editing app where you already have a photo and you edit it. It's a photography app. It's a camera app, sorry. So now, when you take a photo, you have to save it. For that, we have a save function. And we do have 3-4 classes in this chain. It's called a chain of responsibility design pattern. So when you call save on one class, it uses lazy evaluation. So the image processing isn't done till you save. So the first class does the actual computation, which has been deferred till now. The second class applies a watermark on it. Right? We watermark photos with the name of the app. And then it invokes a third class which encodes it to JPEG. And then you have a fourth class which actually talks to the iOS photo library and gives it a stream of bytes. Because after JPEG encoding, you have a byte array. It gives the byte array and says, save this. So as long as you can articulate something clearly like this, which a newcomer to the team can understand, that is a sign that your chain of responsibility is well built. On the other hand, if you can't identify a clear logical thing, without referencing the code, you should be able to explain. If you can't do that, or if you're saying, yeah, A does this, but B also does it to some extent, then that's a sign that you have not correctly used the chain of responsibility design pattern. Does this help?
Yes. Got it.
Cool. Do you have any further questions or comments on what I said or anything?
No. I'll just go through the cohesion video which you.
Great. All right then. Hope you guys enjoyed the video and I'll see you in the next one.